my subject is hot topics. And so we'll get right to it because I'm sure we're going to have questions. Now, we will get as many questions as we can answered. If we cannot get them answered, we will email you the answer from the person that you request the question of. So I hope you keep your questions to information. I don't want to hear any criticism or complaining because that's not what we're all about. We're looking towards the future. We're looking to the betterment of the county and economic development and trying to improve everything. So first of all, there I preached enough for one. Okay, first of all we'll have Charles Gonzalez. He's been with American Transmission Company since its founding in 2001. And he is a local relations representative who works on new proposed projects and interacts with landowners, local officials, and other interested citizens. Prior to ATC, he worked with the public relations arena for over 30 years. He served as Chief of Staff to Congressman Les Aspin and also Chief of Staff to the Speaker of the State Assembly. Charles Gonzalez, you're up.
Okay. Thank you very much. I couldn't help but enjoy the drive from Madison here this morning because the day before I was supposed to be in Lake Geneva and the snowstorm really clobbered southern Wisconsin and the meeting was called off. It was at the Lake Geneva Economic Development Commission, City of Lake Geneva. And I'll tell you a little bit about the reason I was there. We have another project there. Gee, what a surprise. We have projects all over the place. But that one, we had open houses there for the last couple days of January. And I see you got this project under Hot Topics. When we were there for that project, we thought, you know, the people who came, there were about 400 people over 2 days, and things went pretty nicely. And the next week, we got a petition from everybody who lives along a certain road, County Road O, which doesn't make any difference to you, but the point is that we made it real clear that there was going to be a transmission line on County O. Well, it didn't take them until the next week to get us a petition to say that was a really bad idea. And it's consistent with what we find when we're doing or proposing a new transmission line. Yeah, it eventually gets to be under the list of hot topics. And so we've been at this Badger Coulee transmission line project for the last couple of years. And we finished our 4th and final round of open houses last October. And we had 4 rounds of open houses. Each round we had 5 to 8 different locations. People were invited to come and spend as much time or as little time, between 4 and 7 each time we had rounds of open houses. We had 6,500 people, over 6,500 people, come to those open houses. That's a lot of people to come at their own time to come and figure out what the heck this was all about. We encouraged people to give us written comments, and we've gotten over 3,500 written comments, and those will be included in our application that we submit to the Public Service Commission when we file our application in the next, this year at some point. It's been quiet from a public, I guess, observation standpoint on this project since October when we had the open houses, but a lot has gone on. And I want to highlight just a couple of things. One, we have created a partnership with Xcel Energy so that the application will be an ATC Xcel Energy application when we submit it to the Public Service Commission. So we have folks in both companies working on a joint agreement between the 2 companies. And that will have implications on perhaps construction and routing to some extent. But that's going on, and we will have that organized before we file the application sometime this year. So that's a new development. After those open houses, we stopped and listened and heard, I think, at least 15 to 20 different ideas on what we would call minor route adjustments to the 2 routes that we were exposing at the open houses. And it might be minor route adjustments to us, but it's a significant concern for the landowner. And so we've taken those in consideration, and we are probably going to be able to fix up 15 to 20 small deviations on the route that we showed in October. And that's a result of people coming in saying, hey, now I'm getting serious. I think this route might come to my property, so why don't you consider doing this and that? And about that many, we just couldn't give them any change on the routing, but 15 to 20, we're going to make some adjustments. We're getting all the details to be able to put that in the application. And I suspect there'll be more of those as we go along, because when you're dealing with 140 to 160 miles, depending on which route is selected, you're liable to run into things like that. But there were two things that I think we heard that were pretty loud and clear. One is, you really don't want to put this transmission line on my property. That was pretty loud and clear. That was pretty unanimous. We had a few people actually raise their hand and said, it's okay if you want to come over here, but those are few and far between. The other thing we heard loud and clear was, if you get close to the interstate on the route, that's probably a better idea. And so if you remember, we've got I have some maps out on the table there for the two routes that we're looking at. There is the use of Highway 90, Interstate 90, 94, the one that comes from Eau Claire. And a lot of the routing is along that interstate. But when we got to the interstate, let's say between La Crosse and Toma, we had Fort McCoy in the middle, and the lines would penetrate their landing patterns for their airplane, for the airports that they have there. So we really couldn't use the interstate to get over to the other interstate by that way. So the route we have, there's two choices, and that's the requirement we have with the Public Service Commission. We have to give them two choices, two routes, and then they select the route. Each of the routes are completely and thoroughly evaluated and described in the application. But the second route, the one that starts, both of them start north of La Crosse, near Holman, and then go over to the interstate. The one that will impact Monroe County, if you turn your map over, there is a better map of Monroe County on the other side of the map there, and I highlighted it. That one comes off the interstate in the town of Leon, and then uses an existing transmission line. There's a little green dot that represents an existing transmission line. So we would utilize that existing transmission line to Cashton, follow the existing transmission line around Cashton, and then go east, and most of that route is what we call new right-of-way. There is no road, it's not following a road or a trail or an existing transmission line. And it goes all the way over to the interstate. Now, because it's a new right-of-way, in comparison to the more northerly route, which you'll see on the other map on the other side, that northern route is a high percentage is following an existing transmission line, and it's following the interstate. So there's an advantage from one point of view. It's also more expensive than the one through Monroe County. Excuse me, because the Monroe County one is a bit shorter. But so that's why the PSC makes these choices. There's some values involved there, obviously, and it's something that they have to do and sort out. When we submit the application, all the written comments that we've received will be incorporated into the application. And that's really the start of the time when you can start, again, activating the PSC. They will host their own hearings. They will host their own places in the community at their call, where people can come in and testify about the project, express your opinion. And then there's technical hearings in Madison. And then they'll reach a decision. And from the time we submit the application, it'll probably be a year and a half before they reach a decision. That's about what time it takes for them to do that. So it's gonna take some time, but we'll still be around for a while. And eventually, we'll get a decision as to which route to use. And then we'll be back and engaged with you in terms of the impacts directly to the community. So that's all I needed to say today.
Don't forget to write your questions on the pieces of paper that are on your table. Next, we have Director of Mine Planning and Development, Jeff Jan. I'm not going to say all this other stuff. You can come up and say it. Okay? Go ahead.
What's that?
You want to talk about yourself? Come on up. I'm getting tired. You talk about it.
I'll talk about
You talk about it right there.
Thank you, Sharon. Good afternoon, everyone. It's great to be here, and just a little bit about my background. I've been working for U.S. Silica 20 years, and have a degree in geology, and basically I work out of our corporate office in Frederick, Maryland. But it's great to be here in Sparta, where our Sparta mine is now up and running. I consider Sparta my home away from home. It's a great community, and today we're going to talk about some of the great economic benefits and sustainability measures that we're putting into our plans going forward. And I think that the real lesson here going forward is it's really great to see industry, local government, and community work together to make things happen, because to put this in perspective, a year ago today we had not even broken ground, and now here we are just a couple months away of being in full production. So we certainly couldn't have done this on our own, and it was through the efforts of everybody in this whole area that made it happen. Next slide, please. Just a little bit about US Silica. We have 15 operations. We've been in business for over 112 years. And so we have a lot of experience in sand mining and how to do it right. And I think that's important because if you read in all the upstart companies that are coming up into Minnesota, Wisconsin, I think there's a lot of concern that some of these companies don't have the background to do it right. So we recognize that as an industry, and we're partly instrumental in forming Wisconsin Industrial Sand Association. And that's really going to be good. And for those people that are in other counties and you're considering other mines, that's going to be a great resource of information that you can go get the factual information on how to do it right. And also these companies, they need a place to go. And so we're kind of setting up codes of conduct, and there's a right way to do it. And that's, I think, going to help the whole area of Wisconsin and Minnesota going forward. Next slide, please. Okay, about the Sparta facility. Pretty major investment. It's $60 million. It's actually more than that over time. That number creeps. Our operation is a nice, clean operation. For those of you that aren't familiar, it's a dredge mining operation. That's kind of like having a floating barge. We suck the sand like with a vacuum cleaner. Process is clean. It's simple. You just kind of wash the sand, separate it into a couple piles, and then you dry it, screen it, and it goes right into the rail car. And when we talk about sustainability going forward, what we really liked about this site is we don't have to use trucks, so we keep the trucks off the road. We don't have to use blasting because of the dredge mining. And so we're better able to control and have a nice operation close to a nice community like Sparta, and have it fit in and be compatible. Next slide, please. Okay, so when we talk about the local investment in jobs, we got 40 to 70 jobs, good jobs, and they're going to have excellent benefits. And one of the things we do, and what's nice about this, is that we're starting from scratch. So we really want to emphasize our core philosophies of always being accountable for the safety of the employees and also the environment. And I have to tell you, when I was here for a celebration not too long ago, and I got to meet a lot of those people that are on the slide here that are employees, and they were all talking how appreciative they were of having the opportunity to come work for us, and the fact that they were given ownership. And I'm sitting there thinking, wow, I'm so glad to have this kind of workforce and the employees coming work for us. And I'd like to recognize Larry McKibben, who's here in the back. Larry, could you raise your hand? He's our plant manager on the scene, and I can tell you, US Silica emphasizes very much sustainability, safety, and it's the first thing that we do when we bring new people in. And Larry's the man on the scene, and he's really the reason that we've been successful so far, and why the people have bought into our philosophy and how we do it. Next slide, please. I'm sorry about this slide. I know the people in the back can't see it, but when we talk about that economic impact, and there's probably a dozen or more companies that aren't on this slide, but we try to use local businesses, firms, and it's a whole cross section from Sparta on Alaska, West Salem, Bangor, Toma, and so all these companies are benefiting from our needs. And then when you think about the ripple effect of the economic benefit from just people coming in, the contractors, and that would go to the hotels, the restaurants, gas stations, service stations. It's really been a kind of a kickstart into here the local economy. Next slide, please. Again, part of our philosophy is besides the economic impact, is we really want to come in and be a supportive neighbor and give back to the community. So we've started to try to work with local organizations. We're giving scholarships to the high schools, donating money and time to various organizations that are listed there. And over time, that list is going to expand, and the local management is going to work to come up with supporting other organizations going forward. So it's going to be a continual give back to the community. Next slide, please. Wanted to put this up. This is kind of, things happen in Murphy's Law, and we're kind of running to get the plan up, and sometimes things happen, and we were going along, and suddenly we kind of came to some Indian artifacts, and we had to stop production. And the initial reaction is, hey, it's like it's slowing things down, it's costing us money. But in the end, you're looking for ways to try to make the best out of it. And I can tell you that the three people in the picture there on the left, they're Sparta elementary school teachers. And believe it or not, they actually teach an archaeological class in grade school, elementary school. So we called them, we worked out with the archaeological people that they actually came out to site. They were taking notes, they explained in great detail how they go about doing it. And I was really amazed just to sit there and watch the excitement and the just complete satisfaction that these teachers had taking notes. And I stopped and I thought, you know what, this is great, because it's not only going to be at this point in time, but they'll have that as an instruction for year on year. And I'm thinking of all the students that are going to come up through the community that may inspire them to do other things. So this was a case where it was initially bad news, but it really became a good teaching moment. And in the future, there'll be other things that happen as well. And we're always looking for ways to find ways to give back to the community, and this is another example of that. Next slide, please. We talk a lot about sustainability. This particular site, it's nice, it's clean, we don't use chemicals, we recycle the water, it's dredge mining. When we first started this, we weren't sure how the water table was going to react. We had significant studies done on it, and it turns out that they were too conservative. The water table is actually more sustainable than we thought, so that was good. That allowed us to not have to rely on deep well water. So, everything's, when we talk sustainability, we try to make the impact as minimal as possible. And that goes to the aesthetics of berm and tree planting, to noise reduction and so forth. And we don't just talk it, we really instill it with our contractors and everybody. And when this installation was going in, I was beating everybody over the head that I said, hey, I know you have to clean this area for this facility, but I said, here's a couple trees. You don't have to take these trees, and maybe it'll be more convenient if you knock them down, but we said, no, you keep every tree. Every tree's like $1 million. And this is the kind of, when we say sustainability, that's what we mean, and we instill that every day that we're operating, and again, it just funnels down to the employee on the floor. Next slide, please. Again, this is what we're doing today, but what happens, 15, 20 years down the road when we're near completion? Well, we had a reclamation plan. Again, it was a lot of input from neighbors, community, the town of Sparta, the township of Sparta, Monroe County, everybody providing input. So we're going to have a nice recreational area when we're complete. And it's going to include the lake, little acres for homes around the lake, a walking trail, bridge connecting to the city parks, which is a great idea that the city suggested. And that's going to probably happen in the first 5 years. So it's the kind of thing that we don't have to wait to the end of the 20 years before it happens. It's going to happen early on. Next slide, please. Just a final kind of overview, plan view of the lake, Smith Lake. Roy Smith, some of you that are local may know that that was the landowner originally that the facility's on. They wanted to memorialize his name, so it's actually going to be called Smith Lake. And again, this is property that will be deeded over to the city of Sparta when it's complete. And so long-term, this is going to be a really nice recreation area that fits in for the betterment of everybody. And the only thing I could say in summary is, we're just getting started. We're off to a good start, but we're going to just continue to do what we can to make this as economically viable and safe and fit in going forward year on year. And maybe a couple years from now we'll come back and give another update. Next slide. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you very much. Well, we're learning quite a bit of things here, so I'm sure we'll have lots of questions when we're all done. Next we have Dave Robillard. He is our justice consultant for the new Monroe County Justice Center. This thing has been talked about for, 25 years? So I think we're finally going to get it done. So Dave Robillard and his company are looking at design and being the architects of choice, right?
That's right.
Come on and do your thing.
Good afternoon. Now I know what it feels like to be last. And I'm probably not as jubilant as Stephanie was when she opened up the program. I'm going to try. So here we go. My name is David Robillard. I'm with the Lewis Berger Group. Just a brief overview of our company. We're based out of Morristown, New Jersey. We got about 60 offices. We're an international planning, design, engineering, construction, and program management firm. And we have over 6,000 employees, but I office in good old De Pere, Wisconsin. And I head up what's called the Justice Services Division of the Lewis Berger Company. And that means I tackle all of the federal projects, all the county and state projects for law enforcement facilities. We do a lot of work with the Department of Homeland Security. We do a lot of land ports of entry, border patrol station. We're working on a lot of the ICE folks, which is immigration, a lot of their current prisons, and do a lot of border patrol station studies. We also work with the Department of Justice, the good old folks from the Federal Bureau of Prisons. We've been working with them for probably 25 to 30 years of our existence. So we do a lot of their judicial facilities throughout the country. As I said, I am a Wisconsin native. I was born and raised in good old Green Bay, Wisconsin. Even though our company's from out of state, I am here, my staff is here, and we're very proud to be affiliated with this project for Monroe County, being a Wisconsin native. This has been a thrill for me to actually do a project in my own home state. And it's been a very interesting project to date, as many of you that in the audience can attest to. We've had our challenges, but I think the collaboration that we've conducted and the process that we've implemented with the Monroe County Board, headed up by Bruce Humphrey, and the building committee, which is headed up by Judge David Rice, have done a phenomenal job of bringing people together and trying to form consolidation and consensus building on some very serious issues with this project, and I think we're headed down the right path. I would just like to give you a brief overview. I don't know how familiar you are with the project. We are in the phase of, we've gone through a planning phase of the project, meaning that we've spent a lot of time talking to the various department heads and affiliations throughout the city. We've met with the city themselves, the fire, the police, the utility folks. So there's been what we call a lot of needs assessment done on the project. And I bet you that's not good. So we've tried to include all of the departments that have been assigned to the project that are going to be occupying the building. And the planning phase, the preliminary planning phase has been completed. As of last week, we entered into what we call the design phase. We had a design kickoff meeting with the building committee, and we're coming back next week. I'll have a team here all week working and validating one more time with the user groups of the facility, all of their personnel and space requirements, as well as how the building works operationally, and working with a variety of folks on the image of the building. Even though you may have seen some images and drawings and sketches, that's all very conceptual right now. And the next round of what we're doing is called detailed design, where all the details of the project are going to be worked out. The project itself is about 100,000 gross square feet. It's going to reside on the adjacent to the existing courthouse that is in downtown Sparta. As you can see from the site plan, the facility runs from West Oak to Central Avenue. So what we're proposing is a justice complex, not just a courthouse, but a complex that will have a number of components to it. The first component is what we're calling a jail and a Huber. The jail is approximately 110 beds, and it is designed to have a central control, minimizing staff and operational costs for the county. Attached to the jail is a Huber facility. For those who don't know what that is, that's for inmate release programs when they're allowed to go out in the community and work and come back and stay there at night. That facility will have 70 beds. However, we've designed the facility so that if your classification of people that have to go to the jail is greater than 100 beds, you can't use the Huber facility. So we provided that flexibility so that your bed count can go up drastically. The second component of the facility is, in the jail in the Huber is about 28,000 square feet, all new facility. The jail is a 2-story facility. And the second component is called a law enforcement center. And on the first floor, the ground floor, is the new sheriff's department. And on the upper floor, all of the courts will be moved from the existing courthouse and be on the second level of the facility. So the parking is going on the perimeter of the site. There's a new drop-off and entry that resides where Old Main Street used to be. We're proposing closing Main Street that currently connects from South Court Street to South K Street, terminating at the hospital. That street will be closed. There will be a turnaround in the front with a new plaza at the front entry of the courthouse of the new Monroe County Justice Center. Our schedule is in tentative schedule right now for the project is we're looking to complete design January of 2014. We're looking to break ground sometime in March of 2014. The project is, as you can imagine, done in phases. We did not want to disrupt any of the county's current operational duties. So the jail and the piece on Main Street will be constructed first, meaning that the rest of the facility can stay in full operation for a year and a half. Once that jail is complete, we will move the inmates out of the current jail facility, and the old jail and annex will be demolished. And at that time, we'll build the new law enforcement center, which contains the sheriff office and the courts. We're looking at the total project to be occupied by February, somewhere in February 2016. That's where we are. It's been a very interesting project, and again, on behalf of the Lewis Berger Group, we are very thrilled to be here working with Monroe County. Again, we've got some challenges ahead of us, we know that, but we've got a heck of a group that we've been working with that I believe we've made great strides, and this project, we believe, will enhance a lot of the economic development opportunities for downtown Sparta in so many ways. I would probably need another 30 minutes to chat with you about those. If you're interested, I can continue to chat afterwards, but the revitalization of this area will be highly benefited, in our opinion, by this project. Thank you.
That's about a $25 million economic development boost for Monroe County, so I'm sure we will have some questions here. Okay, Jeff, you're first. What scholarships are you giving to Sparta High School, and when can I find them? Where can I find it? What scholarships are you giving to Sparta High School? And where can I find them?
Larry.
Larry!
Oh.
You'll go on the website and pick it up there. I believe we did 2 scholarships. I think we're going to do 2 this year. Just give you the information. So if you can't find it, just come to me. We'll give it a
Okay. Okay, one of the questions is for Dave Robart, will the new jail be overcrowded the day it is built?
You got that answer.
Yeah.
No. No, we would be not doing our job if we did not do forecasting for the county. We believe, and working with the sheriff and his staff, that there's ample room. And what you're not seeing on any of these drawings is what we're calling phase 2, or what we're calling long-range master plan. This project is scheduled to have another 180 bed work, and it has the capacity to do another 180 bed housing unit, as well as expansions of the courts and all the support features. We will be illustrating that in the next level of design, but ample room on that property for expansions of the jail.
There's one question here that I can answer. How was the decision made to put the Justice Center downtown instead of at the dog pound site? As you know, we had a referendum on that, and it was decided at a referendum that we would build downtown. And the Monroe County Board of Supervisors approved that after much discussion. I got an empty one. I like nothing. Pretty good. There are news reports out regarding health impacts of free crystalline. Oh boy, this is somebody who knows something. Free crystalline SIOZ. What are the risks, if any, of exposure of the nearby communities? Anybody know what they're talking about?
Yes.
Okay.
On? Okay. Yes, I think the answer is that our plant and the process we have is going to control any dust that would emanate from the property. And furthermore, the silica hazards associated with free silica dust is usually based on when you have the sand that's further processed, like grinding, and of course our process has no grinding, we're dealing with whole grain, and the real hazards with silica dust is where you breathe the dust in, so that's not associated with our facility. And furthermore, we have the sustainability measures of air monitors on site. We know that's a critical concern for the community. We knew that early on, so we're monitoring it. We're going to be reporting that annually and sharing that information with the community. And so I think we're in good shape as far as respirable dust locally.
Okay. A bill is being fast-tracked through the Wisconsin legislators, which would enable ATC to transmit energy on lines they do not own. Is this bill critical to the proposed Badger Coulee line?
Hello. Hi.
The bill has nothing to do with the Badger Coulee project, because we'll submit the application before that bill presumably gets into effect. I don't know about fast track, it's been discussed over the past year, and the Senate bill, I think, was supposed to be passed out of the Senate committee today, not yet scheduled to be on the Senate floor, still has to get through the Assembly. One of the things the bill does do is the PSC and the DNR is supportive of this. It cleans up some of the regulatory ambiguity. When you submit an application to the PSC, today there aren't some deadlines involved. With the bill, there would be some deadlines, and it clears up some of that. The ownership component is something that allows us to get involved with projects outside of Wisconsin in a more profitable sort of way.
Okay. Jeff, this is for you. I have heard there is a lot of waste sand. If so, what will you do with it?
Not too long. Check. Is it warbly yet out there? Okay.
This one still works.
They're actually telling us it's time to go home because the batteries are wearing out. Check. There you go. Jeff, it's your mic, so you're gonna have to use this.
Sorry about that. Better?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, the sand mining is inherent that there'll always be some fine sand that has to be handled. The good news in this particular facility, since it's dredge mining, once we get the lake that's being formed from the extraction of the sand just a little bit bigger, all the fine sand will be deposited back in the lake as part of both reclamation and a way to handle it. And what's good about it is, since we're not dealing with any chemicals, everything's natural. What's coming out of the ground goes back in, and so other than a short period of time where we'll have a little fine sand pile until the lake gets big enough to take all the fine sand that's generated, I think we'll be in good shape for having a place for the fine sand.
Okay, the next one is for David. Has the county been made aware of the long-term access concerns to the helicopter services at the hospital? If so, how are you protecting that?
At this point, we've looked at the incoming flight pattern and do not see the facility to be in disruption of that pattern. We are, however, meeting with the hospital again. They were going to try to set up for next week to make sure that's a true statement, but we believe it to be. So we have looked at the flight pattern.
Okay, this one is for ATC. A federal complaint is being filed today saying utilities' new CapEx would bring grid stability concerns. If the feds agree and CapEx is stopped, will the Badger Coulee move forward, and what will it plug into?
Well, if it's being filed today, I haven't heard about it, so I'm not sure what the complaint is. But we would be plugging into the approved CapEx project that I don't believe is, there was an appeal made to that and that lost, and don't see any reason why that project won't continue going forward. The Badger Coulee line does start where the CapEx project ends. There's a new substation that will be built near Onalaska, and that's where we'll start the project for Badger Coulee, and goes all the way to Madison from there. So I think the appeals have exhausted themselves as it relates to the CapEx project, and so the line's been approved as it goes. Mike Carroll's here from Excel. I don't know if there's anything to be added to that.
I just found out about today when I came here too, so I'm sure we're looking at it. And the PSC or whoever the jurisdiction will take care of that and respond to that.
Well, here's a good one. Why a Huber Center? That's just a motel where the inmates sleep at night.
I'll get the top questions. Why Huber Center? I'm going to kind of hedge the answer to this because it's a jurisdictional answer, meaning that's up to Judge Rice and his courts system to figure out why a Huber Center, as well as the sheriff. And right now, the determination of the judges is that there is a need for a Huber Center. However, because there's not always a capacity to fill 70 beds, and we realize that, our plan is multifunctional, so we can put general classification inmates, the lowest classification. You have different classifications of inmates, from less severe to very severe. Our plan is designed to classify and separate those different inmate types. So what we're thinking is, if the Huber is not full, we're going to put low-level classification inmates in that Huber unit as a technique to help with the behavioral aspects of rehabilitation of these inmates, so that they have something to shoot for. If they're good, they're going to go to the Huber Center, and it's a different environment. It's not that it's not secure, but it is not a typical jail environment. So I'll leave it at that.
Okay. This is my last question, so if anybody has any, please give them to me. Earlier today, we heard that the second largest tourist attraction is seeking peace and quiet. I am concerned that the tall towers all along the highways will make tourists choose another route over time. Have studies been done about this?
Excuse me, there are a lot of transmission lines in Wisconsin, about 9,400 miles of them to be exact. And I don't know if there's been a specific study about tourism. We haven't done it. But it is a pretty common experience for people to see transmission lines today, to the extent they see them. A lot of folks, once they're built, look right through them and really don't see them any longer. There was one we just completed building in Madison along the Belt Line. In Madison, a lot of people seem to know the Belt Line as the name of the highway, but that was a 33-mile line, and PSC had a choice of rural southern Dane County or along the Belt Line, and the PSC selected the route along the Belt Line. And so we just finished that construction, and actually power has gone through the line as of last week, and nothing bad happened yet. That's the good news, because hopefully nothing bad will occur, but that's been the mode we've been in since the end of construction, is trying to find a reason that we should not turn the power on. That's one of the last things we do, is make sure it's okay. And we turn the power on, and so it is now operational. But it is through a very dense, commercial, very expensive property area in Dane County. And during the course of that proceeding, the county assessor was asked at the technical hearing whether he had ever adjusted any property values, assessed values, as a result of a new transmission line. And he said simply no, there was never ever an adjustment. And that's recognizing that, you know, people may think that there's some value lost to some extent when these transmission lines are put up, but it's certainly not reflected in the assessed property that you get from your assessor. And we haven't found it anywhere else, but that's just one that came to mind because we're finishing that project up ahead of schedule and under budget, I might add.
Okay. Dave, what does the Justice Center plan do to address the lack of parking?
As you can see, I don't know if you've looked at the diagrams or noticed it on the screen, but we're adding a large parking lot along Central Avenue. So, and there's also street parking. We have done a parking calculation study as compared to what you have now, as to what you're going to get. And there's ample parking in our professional opinion with the new parking lot that's going along Central Avenue for 220 to 250 automobiles. That does include surface and street parking that you currently have. So we are also working, encouraging the city to adopt or the county and city to adopt a property acquisition plan that when properties are vacated or become available around the site, that they're purchased and ultimately converted to service parking areas. So it's something you have to keep up with, but as of the opening, our calculations are showing that the parking should be sufficient, way more than what you're experiencing now, and more convenient for the staff and citizens of Monroe County.
Okay, why not create the Huber section secure for jail inmates. You can always use a severe, secure area for Huber, but not necessarily vice versa.
We have to have a Huber unit. Huber unit is not level 2, level 3 classification of inmates, so we can't make that a hardened facility. It would take the flexibility away. The intent and the philosophy, if I may speak for the sheriff, is to rehabilitate these folks so that you're getting into classification 1, where they're lesser offenders. We believe that in talking to the sheriff, that population is greater than the alternative. Thus, we want to have that softened environment, i.e. the Huber unit, to put those folks in.
Okay, Jeff, how do you minimize air, sand, particlets, what do you call that, in the rail car loading process?
The real loadout is a engineering design so that the sand goes right from the bin into the car, and there's like a funnel tube that comes down that forms a seal so that there's a very tight, clean method to get the sand from the bin into the car without any dust being generated.
The last question I have is why not build a justice center with 3 floors with an elevator? I can answer that one, but you can answer it. Money, right?
Yes.
This justice center is costing $25 million. I'm sure if we put another level on the top, we'd have more money, right?
Absolutely. I am going to say this, that our engineers are looking at not putting Monroe County, in a box by not thinking about designing the structure so someday it could be expanded to on the upper floors. So we are looking at sizing the steel and the columns, even though there will be 2 floors. Someday, if needed, go to 3 floors. The opposition of 3 floors to us is certainly what Sharon said, first and foremost, but equally important to us is the historic courthouse of Monroe County. When you have a companion piece of architecture next to a historic building like that, it's our opinion we don't want to overburden that building. So you can see by the rendering, the solution, or the preliminary solution, really is subdued, and it treats the old courthouse still with its prominence as the county seat of Monroe County. If we go to 3 floors, we feel like we're competing with the old courthouse and not being conducive and respectful to that building. And we have been talking to the Monroe County Historical Society, and I believe if there's anyone present, they are very pleased to date as to the progress that the building is taking and some of the strategies that we're trying to